All right. Thank you for being here. I'd like to now call the September 12th, 2025 special meeting of the Scottsdale City Council to order. City Clerk Ben Lane, may we have a roll call?
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Lisa Borowski.
Present.
Vice Mayor Jan Duboskus.
Here.
Council members Barry Graham. Here. Adam Quasman. Here. Kathy Littlefield.
Here.
Marianne McAllen.
Present.
And Solange Whitehead.
Here.
City Manager Greg Caton.
Here.
Interim City Attorney Louis Santea.
Here.
Acting City Treasurer Anna Henthorn.
Here.
Acting City Auditor Lake Clough.
Here.
And the clerk is present. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. This evening, we have numerous members of our Scottsdale Police Department. I'm going to name them off because we really appreciate them and thank them for being here. We also have a canine who I don't see, but I'd like to see. I don't have the canine's name, but starting with Officer Ray Wilburn, Officer Robert St. Pierre, Officer Joshua Bayfield, and Officer Darren Hyman, Officer Alejandro Barron, Canine Officer Brent Patterson and his canine, and Josh Bayfield and Ray Wilburn. Thank you all for being here this evening. We really appreciate it. In addition, we have firefighters Todd Johnson, Jack Shannon, and Mike Oren. If anyone requires any assistance from these security public safety members, please let a member of our staff know. I will ask Councilman Quasman to please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, Councilman Quasman. So we can't help but start this meeting with a serious moment of silence for the tragedy that occurred. I don't know if I'll be able to get through it. The city of Scottsdale lost such an amazing individual. Our city, our state, our country lost an amazing individual this week. And as hard as it is to talk about it, I'd like to get through it. I'd like to use this moment of silence to pray for Charlie Kirk, his beautiful wife, Erica, and their amazing little children, and all of his Turning Point family, his family, and all of the people that knew him to be a great man, including many of us up here. Please join me in a moment of silence for Charlie and his family. Thank you. So I called this special meeting, and I think it's worthy of explanation because for various reasons, there's been a lot of misunderstanding in the community and in the press. And for the purpose of clarity, I would like to share with the public that we had an executive session on September 9th, and the purpose of that executive session was to obtain, I didn't do the executive session notice, but I'm gonna do this first and then move to that. The purpose of our executive session as agendized was to receive, discuss, and give possible direction on the legal advice from our outside counsel and our city attorney's office as to the next steps on SB 1543. We did that, and we provided direction, as is customary in executive session. We are not allowed to vote in executive session, but we are allowed to give direction, and we did that. And there was an understanding at the end of the meeting by what our direction or preferences were by the end of the meeting. We had scheduled to come out and have a regular agenda item to vote on that discussion and direction, but in the interest of not disclosing legal strategy and attorney-client privilege, anything having to do with a legal strategy, I made the motion to vacate the agenda item. Contrary to what you've read from many different sources, including, unfortunately, an email blast that went out to an entire huge list of people from Councilwoman DeBoscus, we did not, in fact, vote no to a lawsuit defending your constitutional rights. That never happened. So I only use that because Councilwoman DeBoscus was not the only person that communicated this erroneous information on this very important subject. It was widespread, resulting in much confusion, and unfortunately, mostly impacted by that confusion was the stress level that it put on our residents. So in fact, I had Jay Grabers in the audience. He had the misfortune of, completely misstating a headline as a result of which he was kind enough to revise, as the result of much misinformation. And I guess that's kind of the chances we take. But I think, I, for one, it's important to let the public know exactly what's going on. Politics aside, I hope we can, just cure this in the future. We won't make this mistake again. The interim city attorney is doing an amazing job, but how we get to today is our interim city attorney said, I want to make sure we protect the open meeting law and formalize direction with a public vote. So that's what we're doing here today. We are here to formalize the direction that was provided to our legal staff, external and internal. We're not here to do a do-over. We're not here to do a reconsideration. We're not here to discuss legal strategy, but we are here to simply formalize a vote of direction that was discussed in executive session. So I'm going to read now go back to the notice of possible executive session. As always is the case, note that City Council during today's meeting may make a motion to recess into executive session to discuss and consult with the attorneys and representatives of the public body to obtain legal advice and any applicable item on tonight's agenda. If authorized by a majority vote of the council, the executive session will be held immediately after the vote and will not be open to the public. So the only item on this special meeting today is, I also should point this out, we had two items on the agenda, but by a majority, and the second one was to move up the election. I just don't want there to be any confusion. Before this meeting, 24 hours in advance, a majority of the council members were polled, and the agenda item, as you know, because I put it out, and I think there were plenty of publications about this, was to move the referendum election up to March 12th to direct our city clerk. That item has been removed, as is the policy of the city council, because 4 members of the council opposed having that agenda item on the agenda tonight. So we won't be discussing that today. So leaving item 1, the only item on the agenda is consider authorization of our interim city attorney and his designees to proceed as instructed in the executive session held on September 9th. Before we proceed with any discussion or a motion, we've received, I think there were 5 people, starting with Steve Sutton, then I don't know if R.L. Whitmer, Andrew Woolman, Ethan Nolden, and finally Yvonne Cahill. I'll hear from Steve Sutton, if he's here. There you are, Steve.
I'm going to need the overhead projector turned on. Maybe this will work, maybe not. Having some technical details here because this is so small. Is there any way to flip this around the other way? To do a 180 on it?
I'm not qualified to be the tech person here, so we're going to have to ask somebody else. Ben's going to come help you out there.
Just change the orientation of this. I need to be able to do this, Ben. Okay. And I can't do it with this in the way.
Can you flip it the other way?
I,
Like that? Can you do it like
will it be readable? It's got to be turned around, though. Okay, all right. Okay, great, that's worked. Steve Sutton, address on record. Good afternoon, Honorable Lisa Borowski, Mayor of Scottsdale, and other council members. Verschlimmbesserung is probably a word most of you are not familiar with. It is a German word. There is no English equivalent. It's a wonderful German word that refers to a situation. And that situation is to repair or attempt to make something better and yet make it worse. There's been a lot of that in the last 9 months. The Axon situation, I think, is a perfect example of that. In that we're now preparing to go to war with a governmental entity that is enormously more powerful than we are. Now, when Verschlimmbesserung happens, it often results in FUBAR, which anyone not knowing what that means, it's an acronym for, well, the boulderized version would be fouled up beyond all recognition. And I think that's where we're at on Axon compared to where we were in January. And now, the normal situation in Scottsdale is snafu. Situation normal, all fouled up on a lot of things. Now, there's a lot of political animosity in this town right now, and the opponents of many of the people who are sitting on the council, they are absolutely enjoying Schadenfreude, which is the enjoyment of someone else's discomfort. I'm sure the council doesn't really care too much about that, but they should be concerned about the fact that in the last few months I've spoken to so many of their supporters who actually campaign for them, and what I'm hearing from them is profound disappointment with you. Now, how do you fix this? Well, it requires another German word, Zivilcourage. There is no English equivalent, but what it means in English is moral courage, Moral courage means doing the right thing even when it has consequences for you. And the right thing to do is to stop using ideological decision-making paradigms and start using pragmatic decision-making paradigms. And the best pragmatic decision-making paradigm is not to govern from the far extreme of politics, but from the center, which was a principle as I was growing up, that you ran at the extremes, but you governed from the center. And it's time that this council find a way to do that. It's time that we have a situation like Ronald Reagan and Tip O'Neill, two master politicians in the 80s who didn't agree on a lot, could still sit down and work things out in a civil manner. Thank you for your time, Mayor Borowski.
Thank you, Steve. I rarely comment on speakers, but I completely agree with your points. Thank you. Andrew Woolman.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members. My first time speaking here. I'm a longtime resident, 40 years, a little plus a few months. But this issue that we're going through right now is important. I've lived in the foothills for a long time, and it's changing. 72 hours ago, the council vacated an agenda item that would allow both public comment period and vote on whether to change this state law. That decision avoided a clear yes or no vote and avoided accountability to the people of Scottsdale. I suspect that tonight's discussion will not be an attempt to do anything but to substitute a notice of claim for real action. A notice of claim does not protect this city. It does not stop Axon from moving forward. It does not send a clear message that Scottsdale is willing to fight. Almost 27,000 voters signed a referendum petition on this issue. It's not noise. It's a clear guidance from your constituents. It's your duty to honor their wishes and my wishes. You work for us, and if the petition signatures weren't enough, the inboxes that you've been looking at should be sending you the same message, both before and after Tuesday's meeting. I don't see what's so funny, but both before and today's meeting. Scottsdale does not want Axon apartments. Meanwhile, Axon repeatedly filled this chamber with its own employees, bussed in at company expense to take up seats that should have been occupied by Scottsdale citizens. At the very same time, Axon complains that union money helps citizens gain signatures. Think about Axon spends millions of dollars on PR, busing, pressure campaigns to force feed this project to our city and to our state government, but then objects to ordinary residents getting a fraction of that support to make their voices heard. This is hypocrisy. Worse, if the city delays while Axon builds, Scottsdale could expose itself to even greater liability. That path weakens our position and risks being used later as an excuse not to act. I think that's what's happening here. The only meaningful step is to vote tonight to instruct the city attorney to file a lawful suit against the state of Arizona and to seek an injunction to halt development until the courts decide whether the citizens really have a voice in this matter. No more postponements, no more avoidance. Put the motion on the table tonight. Yes or no. Let the people of Scottsdale know exactly where you stand. Any money spent protecting our referendum rights and our right to self-governance is well spent. We didn't start this fight, and our referendum rights have worked for us in the past on several times, and a lame duck council should not decide what the future of Scottsdale is. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Andrew. Ethan Nolden.
Madam Mayor, members of City Council, thank you so much for your time. So it's deja vu all over again, right? We're here from Tuesday and now on Friday. just doesn't really feel like the way to run a city, and I'm trying to decide if this is an accident or incompetence or, an intentional deceit. But whatever it is, it's just not a good look. So what I would really encourage the council to do tonight is to be straight with us. If it's really about SB 1543 and local control, then why are the other cities that are impacted by this law not joining you? Tell us. Why is the League of Cities and Towns not leading the charge? Tell us. Why is Goldwater Institute not leading this? It feels like you guys made no friends on the playground this year. So why don't you tell us a little bit about what your outside counsel told you in executive session earlier this week? Tell us, how long this is going to take, how much money it's going to cost, and what are your odds? I've been a lawyer for 35 years. I've given this kind of advice. So if you're not going to tell us, and I suspect you might not, let me offer folks here my view. It's going to take 1 to 2 years because you're fighting not Axon, you're fighting the state of Arizona. And they have a really vested interest in defending their right to legislate and enforce their laws. So you're going to the Arizona Supreme Court. Your $800 an hour lawyer is probably going to wind up charging you $8 to $10 million to get there. And he might have told you what the odds are of actually winning. I've given and gotten this advice lots of times. 60-40 is the best I've ever got. So the city, can decide if that's a good bet or not. Now, if it's just about Axon, and you're all hoping, for an injunction to prevent things going forward, that this is going to give you leverage, I'll tell you what I've always told my clients, which is you don't file a lawsuit unless you're prepared to take it all the way. Because the other side's going to call your bluff. And I have a feeling that Axon is just sitting here waiting for you guys to find out how big a hole you're going to dig. And at the end of the day, if you keep pushing this, what you're probably going to do is push Axon out of Scottsdale. It's 2 miles to the west in Phoenix, and they'll be very happy to have this corporate headquarters and all the housing that comes with it. What you need to do is tell us how you're going to make up for this lost tax revenue, how you're going to make up for the jobs that are lost, how you're going to rebuild the city's reputation. Because in fact, right now, that reputation is pretty bad. Business knows they are not wanted here, and you're going to have to figure out how to turn that around. So look, everything you spend, everything you damage, the residents have to pay for. Now, if you don't want to be straight with us, I get it, it's hard. Just remember, we're entering an election year. So all that stuff you don't want to say, well, other people are going to be saying it for you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ethan. Last, we have Yvonne Cahill. And I do note that one of the speakers was not present in case we had someone that couldn't get on the list.
Hello, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. I just lost my thing here. My name's Yvonne Cahill, and my address is on record. I just wanted to talk to you about why I'm against Senate Bill 1543. This bill is nothing more than a corporate handout designed to benefit one company, Axon. Senate Bill 1543 would require Scottsdale to rezone light industrial land for hotel and multifamily development, all without public hearing and community input. This is a clear case of state legislation being tailored to serve a single corporation expansion plans at the expense of transparency and the democratic process. And there's actually state law that addresses this. The people of Scottsdale quickly worked to stop the proposed headquarters, with nearly 27,000 residents signed the petition calling on for referendum to place on the original plan on the ballot. And I'm very upset to learn today that 4 council members would not let that go forward to an early election. The Senate Bill 1543, in my opinion, is unconstitutional under Article 4, Part 2, Section 19 of the Arizona Constitution, which prohibits special laws granting privileges to individual corporations In conclusion, this bill undermines the value of transparency, accountability, and the fundamental right of every Arizonan to have a voice in the local governance. I would also like to address the irresponsible behavior of 2 council members, Barry Graham and Jan DeBoscas, who sent out misinformation after the last council meeting, whipping people into a frenzy. I cannot tell you how many calls and emails and text messages I got regarding this. I think it's irresponsible, it's not necessary, and in this day of political violence, I just hope that you will stop being so irresponsible. Just report the truth. That's all your representatives want, is truth. They can make up their own minds. Thank you.
Thank you, Yvonne. There's no additional speakers for this evening, and we only have one agenda item. In the interest of not disclosing anything from executive session, I don't know if you want to comment on that, Luis, but before we get started.
Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council, under state law, contrary to one speaker said, we are not allowed, in fact, it would be a crime for us to reveal that was discussed in executive session. If the council has any further questions regarding executive session rules, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you. I see, pardon me. Okay. So I've already explained in detail what this meeting is for and what this agenda item is about. So with that, I move to authorize our interim city attorney and/or designees to proceed with legal action against the state of Arizona, challenging the constitutionality of SB 1543 as instructed or discussed or direction provided in the executive session held on September 9th, 2025. Do I have a second?
Mayor, I would like to call an executive session.
I think you need a second for that.
Second.
Vote on this, right? This is a first for me. Okay, all those in favor indicate your vote. Councilman Quasman.
Madam Mayor, I'm not asking to speak to my vote, because I know that's against the rules, but can I ask the reasoning for the for the request? I don't think the request is innately unnecessary, but I just want to know what your reasoning is.
Yeah, so I'm concerned that the motion does not match my understanding of the executive session. So I just want some clarification before I vote.
And I'd like to speak to, excuse me. I'd like to speak to that. I think, can you please, let's get advice from our city attorney. Does that accurately cover, without giving away legal strategy, the direction that you received in executive session?
Mayor and members of the City Council, I would prefer to answer that question in executive session.
Then I have a second question before we finish the vote. Can Councilwoman Whitehead caucus with you individually, unless anybody else has the same question?
I don't believe so.
Mayor.
Councilman Graham.
Just a point of order. Councilmember Whitehead asked for an executive session. I think she's asking for clarity on the motion on the floor. And is it possible just to provide clarity on the floor to avoid retreat and do an executive session?
No, because I think we need an executive session.
Okay, let's vote on that. We're halfway there. So Vice Mayor DeBoscas, please cast your vote. So the motion to move into executive session fails. So with that, I'd like to put my motion back on the table, and I'll repeat it. And that was to authorize our interim city attorney and/or designees to proceed with legal action against the state of Arizona, challenging.
Point of order. Having voted, Madam Mayor, having voted in the affirmative on the winning side of the final vote, I would like to call that question back up for another vote.
Okay, so we're voting on executive session again. Okay. Councilman Quasman has made a motion to reconsider the vote denying moving to executive session. So I will, Councilwoman Whitehead, would you like to restate your motion?
Okay, yes. I motion to move into an executive session.
Second.
All those in favor? That motion passes, and we are now recessed, into executive session. Thank you. All right, City Attorney, I'm going to need a little, we are back in this general session here, special meeting. I'm going to need a little input. We left off with a motion to reconsider the executive session. We had not taken a vote on my motion. Is that what you recall?
Yes, I believe that's the case. Would you concur? Yes.
So I'm going to withdraw my motion and give the floor to Councilwoman Whitehead.
Thank you, Mayor. I motion to direct and authorize the interim city attorney to file a notice of claim. And I want to speak to that, especially to the gentleman who spoke earlier. Our job up here is to deliver results in the most efficient, cost-effective, and manner that we deliver. We protect your prosperity, your public safety, and your dollars. So litigation is a failure of negotiation. We're not done negotiating in my mind. There's a lot we can still do. We want to keep every single option open. This is our city. We want to make sure to keep pressure on all parties involved, and that's what we're doing tonight.
City Attorney has indicated his request.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, Councilwoman Whitehead, if I could suggest that in terms of your motion that you direct the interim city attorney and his designees to file a notice of claim consistent with the direction provided on September 9th, 2025 during executive session.
Okay, I will amend my motion as directed. Would you like me to repeat that? I move to direct or to authorize the interim city attorney to file a motion of claim. Notice of claim is, okay, folks, no more. I'm going to start over. I did say it right. Can you remind me the date? Was it February, or was it September 9th?
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, September 9th, and if you could specifically authorize the interim city attorney and his designee.
Okay. So we're authorizing the interim city attorney and his designee to file the notice of claim as directed in the executive session of September 9th. Does that satisfy our interim city attorney?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you.
I second that motion.
I'd like to speak to this before we vote. I will be supporting this motion, however, with the caveat that there are there is critical information that I personally am waiting to see from our external legal counsel before we take the next step, which would be ideally soon, regarding filing a complaint. So with that, but I'm in favor of filing the legal action, which is what my motion was, and that's the precursor to filing a litigation or a lawsuit, and that is a notice of constitutional challenge, as Councilwoman Whitehead has referred to it as notice of claim. But I will be supporting this, and I see Councilman Graham has indicated his request to speak.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I will just make an alternate motion to the motion that's on the floor. And my alternate motion will be to authorize the interim city attorney and his respective staff and designees to file a notice of claim and to file a complaint for declaratory judgment against the state of Arizona to challenge the legality and constitutionality of Senate Bill 1543. Thank you.
Second.
Councilman Quasman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I think everybody kind of knows that this looks like everybody kind of staked out their position prior to today, and it's really no different from what happened on Tuesday. And I just want to be very clear with anybody who's paying attention here in this room and everybody listening online, and that right now I could confirm that we are smack dab in the middle of high stakes negotiation with a massive employer in order to guarantee a serious reduction of apartments for Scottsdale residents. And when you're in the middle of a high-stakes negotiation, that does not mean you preclude any chance of litigation. And therefore, when you're moving forward, you act appropriately. You keep doing what you need to do per your statutory requirements. Notices of claim is something that I do in my personal firm. This is something that is very, very normal as a means to a litigatory end. And I want to make sure that everybody knows that by voting to authorize the instructions from 9-9 through the notice of claim, you absolutely reserve the right. In fact, that is what reserves the right to subsequently litigate the constitutionality of SB 1543 in case these negotiations are unsuccessful. But what we're trying to do here is trying to guarantee a great outcome for everybody. And I want to be just very clear again. This vote does not preclude the right to sue at a later date at all. This is not kicking the can indeterminately down the road. This is the correct steps in the process whilst negotiation, whether it's a formal mediation or informal negotiation, continues. So with that, I will not be supporting that motion at this time.
Councilwoman Whitehead.
Yeah, I want to speak to the fact that often the legislature preempts our rights as a local government. In this case, the lack of the public vote, indeed there was a referendum, and indeed you earned the right to vote. But again and again, I supported your right to vote last March, November, next March, and every time your vote was denied by the very people that claim they're representing your rights. If this had gone to a vote in March, there would be no legislation. So I really want to stress that, and I agree with everything Councilman Quasman said. We are keeping every option on the table to protect the residents that we represent. That's what we're doing tonight by my motion, if we approve it.
Thank you. I'm going to also speak to the two comments that have been made. We all have different reasons for where we stand. That's why you elected us. We're individuals, and we have different perspectives. From my perspective, the reason to file the notice of constitutional challenge now before the deadline of October 15th is to preserve our right to file suit. And again, there were critical questions regarding strategy. My critical questions regarding strategy, I'm going to expand on my questions that I need answered. And those include, should we be the plaintiff? Should we wait and be the defendant? Should we wait and be a co-defendant? I understood from former Councilwoman Bob Littlefield's interview that Taze is seriously considering, is going to be filing litigation if we don't. Wow, that would be great, wouldn't it? The taxpayers would not be footing the bill of this litigation, even though we're all rowing the boat in the same direction, wanting a better result from this. So I am not going to be supporting the motion, the alternative motion on the table, because that would be imprudent based on the legal advice that I have thus far. These are very big considerations, and I take it very seriously, and I take the potentially $600,000 at a minimum dollars that we would be spending. As Councilman Clausman is pointing upward, it's likely to be over $1 million, so this is a very serious issue, and there's no reason not to wait for the legal advice of our very competent counsel. So with that, Councilman Graham.
So I made my alternate motion, and I think I'm just going to respectfully reply to some of my colleagues up here because some comments were made, and I'm going to gently reply to those, and I hope then after that we can take a vote. I made this alternate motion, from my point of view, to stand up for the residents that signed a referendum, not only in Scottsdale, but to the citizens across the state that are concerned about the precedents set by this legislation. I do believe this legislation is unconstitutional. There was talk about, the state overrides the city. That does happen. That happens all the time, and we don't like it. But the Constitution overrides the legislature, and that is the argument that we are making, is that what they did, they can't do by their own rules. There's a lot of talk up here about negotiations, and those are very important. Negotiations are, a lot of times it's not what you see, and there's back and forth, and it's nebulous, but I maintain, and the reason I voted on Tuesday to take legal action against the state of Arizona was because I maintain that taking legal action gives us leverage. My colleagues, some of my colleagues don't agree with that. We have a respectful difference of opinion. Councilwoman Whitehead made the comment that if this referendum had gone to the ballot, there would be no legislation. That is total speculation. She does not know that. To say that as a statement of fact is irresponsible. The mayor commented that Taze may sue the state. I don't know what Taze's strategy is. I don't talk to Taze. None of us talk to Taze to have any idea what their strategy is. We don't know what their standing is. We don't even know if they have standing. We don't even know what complaints they're going to make. This is a moment when the city needs to lead, not wait for what Taze might do. And I don't know what Taze will do. I can't, and even if I did, I can't control what they'll do as the city. And there was also the comment about, if we pursued litigation, it would cost money. The mayor mentioned $600,000 and then $600,000 and corrected herself that maybe up to, $1 million. The cost to litigate, in my opinion, is nothing compared to the loss of referendum rights, losing your right to referendum and your constitutional rights, and to the precedents this sets for corporations to impose their will on municipalities. So those are some of the reasons for my alternate motion and some of my respectful responses to my colleagues when they expressed their disapprobation for my alternate motion. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor DeBosket.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now is not a time for excuses, and like Councilman Graham, I have a respectful disagreement with my colleagues. It's not a time for political spin. It's not a time to say not now. We have known about this for months. Voters expect us to be prepared. They voted for us so that we would do our job and be prepared. Many times what you don't see is that before meetings we ask questions, we read documents, we get prepared. You expect us to come up here and make a vote. On Tuesday we could have made a vote to continue if there were questions, which would have suggested that we were going to potentially move forward with litigation. A motion to vacate is pretty much a no vote. That takes the movement away, the litigation away. And the message that it sends to you is that we're not going to litigate. That's not what the voters expect from us. The voters expect us to stand up for Scottsdale. The voters expect us to say, this is unconstitutional. My right to vote, my right to a referendum cannot be touched. And they expect us to do what's necessary to defend them and to protect the city of Scottsdale. So again, I will repeat, I sit here ready today to fight for the residents of Scottsdale and to file litigation. I hope my colleagues will join me.
Thank you, Councilwoman Whitehead.
So I will also respectfully disagree. Each and every one of us is elected to solve problems, not create them for political motivations. The state of Arizona's economy is based on 3 pillars. It's based on having the best quality of life, business-friendly, and low taxes. Chandler would not throw out Intel because of apartments. And believe me, I don't want 1,800 apartments. There will not be 1,800 apartments. This is just, these are attempts to scare voters into thinking that spending millions of dollars on a lawsuit we might lose is to their benefit. So our job, again, is to solve problems. We have an incredible employer. We have had 5, 10 former police chiefs or people in law enforcement tell us that having Axon in Scottsdale, in Arizona, has made us safer. Chief Walter said he will not allow Axon to leave on his watch, or he dreads the thought of having Axon leave on his watch. When you file a lawsuit, you admit that you have failed to win at the negotiating table. We will keep every single option open, and that's why I support the notice of claim. But we have a great employer. We have 70 acres that are designated industrial. We could become the Valley's biggest truck depot, or we could become the home of global corporate headquarters. That's the option. I agree with everybody who wrote those letters. If I had gotten the emails you received and didn't know the information I know, I'd be freaking mad too. But the bottom line is, I've been calling all those people who wrote emails, and believe me, when they understand what the options are, that land is going to be developed. And frankly, apartments will be better than a trucking depot. But let's talk about that state law. It is a state law. So you want to talk about speculation, Mr. Graham? Let's talk about saying it's unconstitutional. That will be decided in the courts. And guess who's going to pick up the tab? You and me and every other taxpayer in the city. We don't have to go that route. This law, as terrible as it is, I don't like the precedent, has no impact on the city other than this parcel of land. And our options are some sort of industrial use, or we come up with a deal with Axon that in fact benefits everybody. I can tell you that the neighbors closest to this parcel support this. They have not signed that petition. So what we're doing is not, and I will tell you that I'm representing the citizens. It turns out there's 240,000 people here, and not everybody agrees with me. And you better believe not everybody agrees with Mr. Graham or Ms. DeBoscus. We're up here to deliver the best results possible, and that's why I made my motion. And we are on track, as Councilman Quasman said, to delivering that. Well, we are in negotiations, and we're going to allow those negotiations. That will save you money. And that is exactly what I'm trying to do, and that is exactly what I've done for my first 6 years. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to point out that we should all be speaking on behalf of ourselves, because there's been 2 comments that do not include me at this time, and I just want to make sure that's clear. So speaking on behalf of only me, and I loved Councilman Graham's statement or comment, predecessor to his statements. I'd like to gently respond to my fellow council members. First, Councilman Graham, you said something along the lines of it's important or incumbent upon us as elected officials to stand up for the citizens' right to vote. And when 27,000 people go out of their way to sign a petition to challenge this project, I couldn't agree with you more. There was a citizens petition in July that came forward with a request for this council to set an early election, earlier than almost 2.5 years after signatures were gathered. And that election would have be taking place this November, and the citizens would have had their right to vote on it this November. And guess what? Here's the kicker. It would have been at no additional cost to us because there's a county election. So it wouldn't have cost any more money. But guess who said no? The two, Vice Mayor DeBoscus, Councilwoman Graham, opposed setting the citizens petition and considering, in fact, I guess I should call on Greg Caton because the direction was to have City Manager Greg Caton come back with, I'd like you to hold your answer on that if you don't mind, come back with recommendations and analysis, a summary of what that would look like and what that would mean to our city. And I'm going to speculate because I know the answer. That information, which for the record we have not received yet, so there was no response to the citizens petition as far as I recall or know, that information should have included that having the election, the referendum election on this project could have happened in November at no additional cost to the citizens. So forgive me, City Manager Caton, if you can take a note and just hold that thought because I would like to hear your answer. And I would like to agree with something that Councilman Graham said, however. And contrary to what Councilwoman Whitehead just went on about, this vote is not about Axon and whether we keep them in our community. I've been crystal clear in my desire and my commitment to do whatever we can to keep them in our community while respecting our residents and their right to vote on the referendum, and also, finally, and most importantly, to protect our community in a fashion that we were elected to do, and that is major, if not eliminate, multifamily high-rises, apartments in our community. That was our marching orders. So all of those things aside, I do agree with Councilman Graham. Moving forward with legal action, for me, which starts with the notice of constitutional challenge, is about preserving municipal zoning rights and oversight and obligations and the right to referendum in that situation. Those two things are critical to me. Has nothing to do with Axon. So in terms of speculating about whether or not Taze, who led the charge on the referendum, and while we all, some of us, me, would have agreed to that, would have agreed with them on that, and do, because of the size and the circumstances that surrounded that vote, it's not speculation that that's what they're going to do, because former Councilman Bob Littlefield was outside our front doors on Channel 12 stating, he's the chairman of Taze, so I'm hoping we can take his word for this, stating that they will file litigation. So that's not just speculation. Those were the words of the chairman. And I know and respect Bob Littlefield, and I take him seriously when he makes a statement like that. Vice Mayor DeBoscus, what you just talked about with respect to excuses, I know you know these are not excuses. I know you're aware, or at least should be aware. As I've just stated in this open forum, I have serious questions that I have not received answers to. I don't believe any of us have received answers to, because that information would have been disseminated to all. So we have very sophisticated lawyers on our side. I suspect they can get that information to us real quick, as quickly as possible. So there's no smokescreen or excuses or spin, as that's been referred to, going on here. I think as a lawyer practicing commercial litigation for an excess of 25 years, I am entitled and obligated to ask these serious questions and get the right answers. So I don't need to speculate on the answers, but those are critical to me. So I'm going to give up the floor, and I would like to hear from City Manager Greg Caton on the answer to my question about the citizens petition.
Go. I can answer it.
Madam Mayor and members of the council, my apologies for interjecting, but I think a discussion and requiring Mr. Caton to answer the question at the time is beyond the scope of this meeting.
Okay, we can follow up on that because I don't understand that decision, but nonetheless. Moving right along. Councilwoman Littlefield, please.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate it. First of all, I'd like to say I thank God every day I am not a lawyer. It's wonderful. And I'm not going to become one.
Never say never.
Never. The petitions of the citizens asking for a vote were proofed and submitted properly and legally and submitted to the city clerk. And I think there's no question but that a sufficient number of signatures were given to hold an election. This is what the citizens have asked us for. They have the right, and frankly, the obligation, if we do something they don't like, to let us know. And they can do that in many ways. They can come here and tell us, or they can ask for a vote and ask for an election where they can go individually and let us know exactly how they feel about it. Any kind of issue. This is one of those issues. I am going to side in the vote tonight with Councilman Graham. I believe that gives the citizens the rights that they deserve and the freedom to activate those rights. They have the right to defend the filing of the petitions that they did and have a vote on what happens here. I don't believe we should take that vote away from them, and that's what I see trying to be done. Our job is to defend the citizens and their legal rights when they do the work that was required by all those petitions, and there was a lot of work and a lot of time and a lot of people and a lot of effort. They filed for a petition to hold an election. We should hold the election. To me, it's black and white, and that's where I'm going to vote. I'm going to vote along with Councilman Graham and Vice Mayor DeBacus to do those kinds of things. Thank you.
Thank you. I said I was going to follow up, but I didn't think I'd follow up this quickly. Can you explain your legal advice there, why I can't, from the dais, ask our city manager about an issue that has been subject to discussion on this dais today?
Mayor and members of the council, as the council knows, we're subject to the open meeting law. And under the open meeting law, we're required to discuss that what has been agendized. Well, there is some leeway. There has not been an agenda item talking about citizen petitions and elections. The sole item on this agenda is to decide whether to vote to provide me direction and authorization related to what was discussed on September 9th. So in my legal opinion, such a direction is outside the scope of the agenda.
So we've been discussing that at length up here, so I don't understand. It's about the axon, it's about the legislation, it's about the referendum. That's the entire meat and potatoes of this discussion, isn't it? So if he's not prepared to answer it, that's one thing, and I'm fine, happy to move along, but I struggle to understand your legal opinion here.
Mayor and members of the City Council, I gave you some leeway without interjecting previously. And now the back and forth with the city manager regarding this particular item is inappropriate in my legal opinion. And why? It's not agendized. And yes, some discussion back and forth in terms of the political ramifications on when there's going to be a particular vote and stuff like that was okay. But when it gets to the point where we're talking about something totally different, which was a petition, I believe it was said in July, and now wanting specific answers on that, that's not what's agendized. And in my opinion, the leeway, some of the leeway, the political dynamics were appropriate, but when we get into this micro-specific level on something that's not on the agenda, I don't think it's within the purview of the meeting. And I understand you may disagree with my opinion, but I'm offering the best opinion I can give.
Okay, I guess my point was that we hadn't received any direction on that, so I'll just leave it at that and not call on the city manager for that. Thank you for your legal advice, Luis. I really appreciate it and value it. So,
Thank you, Mayor.
Councilwoman McAllen.
Thank you, Mayor. I call for the question.
So just to be clear, do you need to speak? No. Oh, sorry, called the question, sorry. Just to be clear, we are voting on the alternate motion, which is to embark on filing a complaint. All those in favor?
Point of order. A question was called. We're not voting on the question call. We're voting on the alternate motion right now. Okay, then the motion caller is good with that? Okay, thank you. My motion. So I'm going to vote yes.
Is this your motion? Better.
All right, having failed, we go back to the original motion, which, if I can recall properly, was Councilwoman Whitehead's motion, and I dare you to restate that.
I'm happy to, if that is desired, to keep us here longer.
Do you want to restate it for us? Yeah, I think it's important just to refresh.
That's fine. Okay. I move to direct the interim city attorney and his designees to file a notice of, or to take actions to file a notice of claim pursuant of the direction you received in our September 9th meeting, executive session meeting.
I second that motion.
All those in favor? Thank you. That concludes our business for this afternoon, and I will move to adjourn. Thank you. Thank you.